Well, good evening as we track our storm, which is coming out of the Rockies. This was in the Pacific just a couple of days ago. Low pressure just exiting the Rockies, and it's deepening pretty quickly. Big plume of moisture we can see too. So this is a Pacific plume of moisture really spewing over the mountains and then tapping into some of this Gulf moisture. So the system will continue to rapidly develop. Rain on the southern end and, of course, a wide swath of snow. The storm tracking just right to be a heavy snow producer for southern Minnesota. Now, one thing that we're going to be talking about here, well, a couple, but temperatures are going to come into play. 11 a.m. temperatures above freezing potentially, and then it will cool off as we start to see the snowfall, but temperatures are going to be right around the 30-degree mark, and that generally means a heavier snow. It's not going to be like Tuesday where it was all fluff and powder, so we're going to really be watching what's the ratio going to be. So we're going to look at some forecast, basically balloon data. When we put up a weather balloon, what's the upper level of the atmosphere look like? The green is, or the red is the temperature, green is the dew point, and specifically this layer, which is saturated, the temperature and dew point are close together, and this is between 12 and 18 degrees Celsius below zero. We call this the dendritic growth layer, and it's going to be in just the right spot where we're going to have some big upward push in the atmosphere. Vertical velocity plume here may just be south of the Twin Cities, maybe clipping the southeastern suburbs, but this is showing that bright red. That's some upward lift, major upward lift in the atmosphere, and when it comes right through that layer, we can get dendrites to form, even with some warmer temperatures, because it's happening aloft. And we want dendrites, or if we want a lot of snow, because these are the snowflakes with all the arms, like what we had Tuesday. They pile up quicker because they get tangled. Now, it's not going to be, again, like I said, Tuesday, but it could be a little bit higher ratio, and it makes a difference. This is looking at one model, for example, your 10-to-1 ratio, 10 inches of snow for the Twin Cities. You move it up just a little to 13-to-1, now all of a sudden it's a 14-inch snowfall event. So that ratio matters, as well as how much liquid is this storm going to put out. So going through time here, potentially earlier as the snow falls, this is a much lower ratio, under 10-to-1, but maybe in some of those heavier bursts, when we pop through that dendritic layer, it could be closer to potentially that 12-to-1 ratio, so a little bit higher. So it's going to start out as a heavier, wetter snow that won't accumulate as quickly, but once we get into some of those heavier bursts, especially late afternoon, evening hours, probably when that'll happen, we'll get into maybe some of those higher ratios, anywhere from 11-to-1 to as much as 14-to-1. So the snow will pile up. When you look through this layer of snow, it's not going to be all the same consistency. Therefore, it's going to be kind of more compact and then a little bit lighter. So here's the snow. It starts in the metro, probably not till early afternoon now, maybe a little delayed, starting early in the morning in southwestern Minnesota, snowing to beat the band all late afternoon and evening. And then after midnight, it really starts to wrap up quickly from west to east. 6 a.m., it's all across Wisconsin. You can get up early Saturday and blow dry or shovel it all away. Now this is looking at snowfall rates. When will the heaviest snow be? This is 3 p.m. Heavy snow, that dark purple, that's 1 inch per hour snowfall rates. And then these are those bursts. That's when we could potentially have those dendrites developing in the evening hours. So late afternoon, early evening in the Twin Cities. Bad timing if you got to commute at that time, but that's going to be the heaviest snow. That's when we could be looking at 1 inch per hour snowfall rates. And that's when the airport gets into trouble too. It's hard for them to keep up with getting rid of the snow. So here's looking at high end and low end snowfall amounts. On the high end, we could be looking at 8, 9, 10 inches of snow for parts of the metro. Lower end, probably 6 to 7. Basically the bottom line, it's going to depend. If you're in the northern suburbs, 3 to 6, but the southeastern metro, maybe 7 to 10 inches of snow. And then that swath of potentially a foot from basically New Ulm, Mankato through Red Wing. And again, if this shifts a little bit, we're talking about 1 inch of snow for every 7 miles. That's the gradient with this thing. So any little shift is going to be a big difference in snow totals. And then the sun's back out right away Saturday morning. It looks like we'll be seeing sunny skies through the weekend. And then next week, you probably heard about this, we could melt a lot, if not all of this snow. We're talking about highs in the 50s by the middle of the week. That could be record high temperature territory, so very warm temperatures next week. So if we melt off the snow, we could be looking at a little trouble here, maybe a little brown Christmas if we see those temperatures get quite that warm.